Sully. He's Gordon Mack. I can't see Gordon right now, but I trust that you're there. Gordon, are you out there somewhere?
I believe so. I am here in my office, chilling. It's Wednesday, November 17th. Now I see you. There you
There
are.
we are.
Um, just a few days out from NCAAs. It's exciting. Did the second to last NCAA cross country show.
Hmm.
It's been a great year of talking about cross country. Just have a few more days left of it, and I'm excited. I'm excited for Saturday. It's gonna be good, and we're gonna have a fun show on Saturday. Do you want to announce what we're doing? What we're doing Saturday morning?
Yes, we are going to do another watch party on YouTube. So you can tune in 9 a.m. Central Time. We'll preview both the men's and the women's races. And then for the men's and women's races, we will have special guests. Justin Knight will be joining us for the men's race. Courtney Frericks will be joining us for the women's race, and we will be a second screen experience for you. They're going to offer their insight. Gordon's going to have all of his stats and projections going on the screen like he did last year. It's going to be a ton of fun. Again, we are not streaming the race, but we're going to be having a watch party so you can have the race on one window, and then you can listen to me and Gordon. And let's be honest, mostly Justin and Courtney, because that's the people that you want to hear from, because those are the people who won NCAA titles and have won big races before. They're going to give their insight on what they're seeing. Courtney did it with us last year. New Mexico, her alma mater, even better this year. Perhaps she's going to be there to witness New Mexico winning another title. Justin Knight, of course, won the individual title and a team title for Syracuse. So it's going to be exciting on Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Central. Tune in. It's easy. It's on YouTube. Just go onto YouTube, FloTrack Podcast YouTube channel, same one that you're watching this on now, perhaps, or if you're listening, go on out to YouTube, search FloTrack Podcast, and you can find the show on Saturday morning. We'll also put an article up on the site if you want the links and any more info.
It's kind of exciting to have Courtney and Justin on for a reason that you probably haven't thought of, but this is a reason I've been thinking of lately. That I have this weird feeling, just this weird
Mm,
feeling. I love trying to find similarities in sports, like trends. Like this is a repeat of this thing that happened 10 years ago. I do it a lot in basketball. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. Most of the time
mm-hmm.
I'm wrong, but
Wrong, yeah,
occasionally I'm
most of the
right.
time.
And I love trying to find the little cyclical, replicable situations across country. And I look at the 2017 men's individual field and the 2017 men's team field, and it seems eerily similar to the 2021 field. So I'm kind of like seeing, will we have this kind of the same type of result as 2017?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can go down. I can break down what I see as the similarities, or should I save that for
I,
Saturday? But
I I think you save it for Saturday. You throw it to Justin so he can look really confused, because you're going to confuse all of us when you do it, because you're going to be like, "You are Connor
I
Mance."
mean, yeah, he is Connor Mance.
I
Baxter
know.
and Day is Abdi Hamanur and Nico Young, the two NAU
You,
guys.
so we're doing this now.
Gilbert Keegan.
We're doing
Gilbert
it now.
Keegan is Wesley Kiptu. Grant Fisher is Cooper Tier. You know, the strong track guy. Dylan Maggard is Adrian Wildershut. Vincent Kiprop is Victor
Naturally.
Kiprop of Alabama. Peter Lamong is Drew Bosley. Lawrence Kipkoek of Campbell is Athanas Kyoko of Campbell. I can go on and on. But then on the team wise, everyone thought it was an NAU BYU battle, right?
Hmm.
Because NAU was the defending champs, and the BYU men were the ones who were going to try to defeat them. Everyone here is thinking it's an NAU Notre Dame battle.
Yeah.
NAU's defending champs. Notre Dame's the ones that are going to beat them. But then Portland shows up that people weren't talking about and finds a way to be the true challenger in NAU. I think Portland is the Oklahoma State of this year. Oklahoma State is actually the real challenger that will, so
Okay. So you did it
lots of
now. That's
similarities.
good.
I did it now.
Listen,
Yeah, I got it out of the way.
but nobody's saying NAU BYU this year. Most people aren't.
No, no, people are saying NAU Notre Dame.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me. Well, even that. Are people really saying that as much as NAU BYU? I thought NAU BYU was up a couple notches than what we have this year with NAU and Notre Dame, just because we haven't seen
Well,
Notre
NAU
Dame
B
full strength as much.
true, but NAU BYU didn't become a thing until after the 2017 year. Because 17 was the first year where they said we're going to beat you, and then
Fair.
they lost, and then they lost again in 18, and then they won in 19. Here, I feel like Notre Dame. This is the first year Notre Dame is saying we're going to beat NAU because Notre Dame wasn't trying to beat NAU last year. I mean, I guess they were, but it wasn't on the map. But
Mhm.
so we'll see.
I watched your show. It was a good show. It was a good penultimate episode for your season one. As most people know, sometimes the second to last episode of the season in a drama or comedy is better than the finale itself. And I thought you lived up to that tradition. So well done there. But I watched it and I came away with some questions based on your analysis. And some of this stuff were questions that you had, and some of these questions I bring up as a way to refute some of the points that you made or disagree a bit with the points that you made. So I'm gonna jump in right off the top with this first one
Okay.
because you break down all the men's teams and you have all these
Yeah.
conditions. And it was like a
Yeah.
math problem. If A, then B. If A and B, then C. If A and B and C, then D. It was an LSAT sort of situation there. I was having flashbacks. But the team that you put up top, because they're number one, is Oklahoma State. And you basically say, if they all have A races, they're going to win. They're going to win. And everything else follows from that. And if they don't, then the door opens for NAU. And then if NAU has an issue, then the door opens for the next team and the next team and the next team and so on. And I know that you're big on Oklahoma State. I know that you're big on Oklahoma State. But is an A race really going to be enough? That's my biggest question. Because it's possible to have A plus races. And I think a team like NAU, if you go through all their guys, what does an A or A plus race look like for Nico Young? Well, it's top 3. What does that look like for Nur? That's top 5. What does that look like for Bosley? I think that's legit top 15. Kusha, Raff, Quacks. We could keep going on and on down the list of the rest of their guys on their roster. I think they could get Oklahoma could have a really good day and still get beat by NAU. But you disagree. Defend yourself,
I do
Gordon.
disagree.
Defend
Okay, so
yourself.
first of all, an A day for Young, Nur, and Bosley is like all of them top 15. So you can't really go to an A plus for Nur, Young, and Bosley and have that much of a difference. I mean, Nico Young going from 5th to 1st, whoop-de-doo, your team scores 4 less points. Abdi Nur, whoop-de-doo, your team scores 5 less points. Drew Bosley, I have him ranked 11th. So if he has an even better day, whoop-de-doo, he's scoring 5 less points. It's not that big of a deal. So if you look at my top 250 rankings, I have their 3 NAU guys all in the top 11. And then I have George Kusha
Kusha.
finishing 107th. I have Theo Quacks finishing 130th. Ryan Raff and Brody Hasty finishing the 160s. So there's a huge drop off after 3. Whereas Oklahoma State, this is where I have them finishing 6, 24, 46, 50, 61, 96. So if you add them up, I have Oklahoma State scoring 187 points.
Mm-hmm.
This is raw score to 260. So I have about like a 70-point cushion.
Yeah.
So even if Kush and Quacks all finishing like in the 50s, it's not going to be enough because if Oklahoma State just does what they're supposed to do, which is have 1 in the top 10, 2 in the top 25, probably 3 in the top 40, 4 in the top 50, 5 in the top 60, Nur, Young, and Bosley can't lower that score much because they're already in the top 11. So I just don't see NAU being able to lower their score enough against Oklahoma State
Okay.
because their
So
top 3
basically,
guys are already low enough.
right. So basically, you're conceding 1 through 3, NAU is the strongest, but Oklahoma State is going to win it on 4 and 5. I have a bit. I
Yeah.
think Oklahoma State's good and obviously a threat to win this thing. I just have a little bit more belief in NAU's 4 and 5 than you do because if you talk about an A race for George Kusha, This is a guy who's Big Ten cross champ. This is a guy who's gone and battled Oliver Hoare for years at Nebraska. He's got some dog in him. And I don't think goes all the way to Flagstaff. He's got one job, right? We don't need you to be top 10, George. We don't even need you to be top 20. Just run a solid 33rd, and then we are in business. And then you have to have one of the following three guys hit, assuming they run the 7. Either Raff, Hasty, or Quacks. Just needs to hit. Again, Brody Hasty has been All-American before, correct? So an A day for Brody Hasty would be All-American again. So now we're back to NAU having their whole scoring squad in the top 50. I think the back half of their lineup doesn't need to be spectacular because their front half is. And I think because of that, they have more of a chance than you're giving them credit for.
They 100% have a chance. I'm not saying they don't. Like, I do see scenarios where Brody Hasty finds the magic and finishes 50th or 40th, or George Koosh finishes, 35th. That can happen. But when you look at what they've done lately, like when you look at the head to head, when Oklahoma State raced NAU, if you actually look at the results, even though NAU beat Oklahoma State at the Cowboy Jamboree, what was the score? 40 to 62 points. Oklahoma State didn't run Shea Foster, who's going to be an All-American. They were unattached with Roy Leonard, who probably is going to be one of their top 7 guys. But also, Oklahoma State's like projected 3-4 in that race were like way out and clearly not running what they're capable of, because Ryan Smeaton went on to, be top 5 at Big 12s, top 5 at regionals, so he
Mm-hmm.
showed that he's not going to finish 30th in a dual meet type race. So what I'm trying to say is, like, Oklahoma State, we just are, people aren't recognizing Oklahoma State because they didn't run at Nuttycombe or Pre-Nats. And it's kind of hard to look at what they did at Big 12s. Regionals, you kind of can throw away because regionals doesn't matter at all. But look at what they did at Big 12s, and you kind of like, what does this mean? I'm just saying, like, Oklahoma State is actually in a better driver's seat than NAU is. When you look at the time back of NAU's 4 and 5, even when you look at NAU's 4 and 5 at the pre-nats, let's look at this. So let's assuming Drew Bosley finishes 15th, right? We're gonna do quick math here. So Drew Bosley was the number 3. In this case, Nico Young was the number 3 runner. So Nico
Mm-hmm.
ran 23:12 at pre-nuts. Okay. George Koosh ran 23:24. So he was 12 seconds back of their
Mm-hmm.
third runner. And Theo Quacks was 14 seconds back, right?
Yeah,
What is
that's a
12
it's a winning
seconds and
formula.
14 seconds? 12 seconds and 14 seconds back of a, let's say, 20th place finish at NCAAs. So I'm going to bring up Abdi Hamid Nurs. I'm doing quick math. Let's go to what finished the time of 20th was 30:25. Let's go 20 seconds back. But okay, you can't do that because it's an 8K and a 10K. So you have to go a little more. So you have to add another 20%. So you should probably do 30 seconds back. You start getting into like
Okay,
the 50s and the
I get that.
60s.
Listen.
You know,
You score 5, and you can say, oh,
yes.
those 3 don't have anywhere to move up, so it's not a big deal based on how they run. But it's still an aggregate total of 5 runners. That's what it is. Let's not overcomplicate these things. And I think they have fewer questions to answer because they're so confident in their 3. And their 3 is better than Oklahoma State's 3, which I think you'd agree with. So it leaves them with 5 options, 4 options for those final 2 spots. It's a good position to be in. Could it be better? Absolutely. If Farrow came back or Grijalva came back, we'd be having a completely different conversation about this. But I think they're still in a good spot. I think they're still in a good spot.
Oh, I agree with you. NAU is in a great spot. They just They need help. And I think denying that they don't need help, I think is bad to like just assume if they run the
Here's the
race, they're
problem
going to
with your
win
argument.
because
Here's the problem with your argument, though. You're taking the fact that Oklahoma State didn't run at the most competitive weekend of the year and giving them bonus points for that and saying that's an advantage. When
no,
if they
no,
ran that weekend, yes, because if they ran that weekend, they would have gotten pushed and maybe they would have gotten beaten and maybe they would have shown some vulnerabilities. You just said that regionals didn't count. Yeah, they did well in conference. But so we're pulling all this off of one data point, and then you go back to the jamboree, which is now ancient history. And this person didn't run, that person didn't run. They're training through. We don't know a lot about Oklahoma State. I get it; they're the hot, sexy pick for you, but we don't use the fact that they didn't run as evidence that they're going to do better than people who actually did run.
I'm not using it as evidence. What I'm using it as is um, you have to look at George Kush, Theo Quacks, and Brody Hasty, all right, and Ryan Rath, and you
Yeah,
look at those four guys' resumes. They have holes in them. They aren't like solid.
yeah,
Like
but so
George
does the
Kush
Oklahoma.
finished like 240th. Yet no, Oklahoma State
You're
doesn't have
acting
those
like
holes.
Oklahoma State.
Jay
No, you're acting like
Foster
Oklahoma.
finished
You're acting like Oklahoma State has
finished.
5 Isai Rodriguez's on their team. They have one Isai Rodriguez. Are the other guys good? Yes. Can they deliver? Yes. But they have vulnerabilities too. They're not invincible.
They don't have guys who are finishing 150th at the national meet. Like
Well, some of the well, okay, that's fine. But NAU has run in a bunch of national meets though, and has run
yeah, but
freshmen in a
like,
bunch of national meets.
but like,
I
what
can't believe
does
I'm
George
more
Kush?
pro N. How did I become more pro NAU than you? This is impossible. What is going on?
All right, let me like say
Let's
this
move
right now.
on.
So
No, it's
my
fine.
rankings, whatever, have NAU scoring with when we take out like individual qualifiers, 207 points, and as Oklahoma State scoring 157 points. So I have Oklahoma State with the 50-point head start. So if Oklahoma State does exactly what they're able to do, they have a 50-point lead. So that means there's an expectation that George Kush and Theo Quacks are going to run 50 combined 50 points better to like pass Oklahoma State. I just don't think that's
Yeah,
happening.
because you have Kusha at 106th or something. That's a reasonable
I have him
expectation that he
scoring
runs.
83 points. I have him scoring 83 points when we
Okay,
take out
right.
individuals.
I don't think he's going to do that. I don't think Mike Smith thinks he's going to do that. I don't think George thinks he's going to do that. 83 points? No. He can be an All American. That's not crazy.
Okay.
I don't know.
Here's the thing, though.
Why are you burying him so I don't understand. Why are we burying George Kusha so deep here? I don't understand this. Did something happen?
Okay. No, there's just a
Let's look at
lot
his.
of other people that have run better this year than him.
He
And
got
that
eighth in Big Sky. He got 20th at
eighth
Prenats.
in
He
Big
got
Sky,
well, okay. I'm
Kevin,
looking at his
eighth
resume.
in
I'm just
Big
trying to figure.
Sky.
Yeah, he got
You're
13th at
bragging
the
about his eighth
Jamboree.
place finish.
No, I'm reading his results. I'm not giving his accolades.
Oh,
I'm not giving his Hall
okay.
of Fame induction speech here. Let me start at the beginning. Third at the George Kite Classic. Then he got 13th at the Cowboy Jamboree, which, I mean, counts, but doesn't count, I guess. 20th at Prenats, I think is a pretty good result. And then he got 8th at Big Sky, where, what was he on their team? Bosley, Young, Christian Allen, Nur, Ricketts, Perrin. So he was the fourth NAU guy. Ran 23:42. Right. I don't get how we put that in the calculator and we come up with he's going to be in the hundreds. But okay,
Because
maybe I'll be wrong.
time is different. Place is different than time. You can finish
I
20th
understand.
in a race, but if 19th place was 30 seconds better than you, like when you added all the other people in the country, there's going to be, you're all of a sudden, the difference between 19 and 20 is not going to be one spot. It's going to be 20 places. And when you
I
added all
understand.
these other people, not everyone and their mom was running at pre-nets. There's a lot of people at Nuttycombe. When you added the Nuttycombe people to the pre-nets people, his 20th place at pre-nets doesn't become 20th. And it doesn't become 40th either because there was an unequal amount of national qualifiers in the pre-nets and Nuttycombe, and they also ran a different pace. So one, the you have to look at the percentages because If one pace was conservative and one pace was hard, you can't just like match them together and second
I
here,
know, I know,
second
I know how
there
cr-
because
I know how cross country works. You don't need to explain cross country to me. All I'm saying is it's not like you're like I would look at that and be like, this guy's falling off the map because I also weighed in what he's done in the past a bit because cross country gives you so little information that oftentimes you have to think, okay, well, this guy's been a solid runner before. I mean, he was what he ran the same time as Garnica at pre-nats. Where do you have Garnica finishing?
Garnica, I
28th.
have Garnica
Like
26.
Garnica,
But you know what Garnica does? Garnica's run like 13:30, sub
that's
13:30 in the
great.
5K.
That's
Like,
great. They're running at 10,000 in
yeah,
this meet. So
well,
we'll see. I have one more.
you
I have
ha-
more questions. Let's keep moving. Here we go. I won that one. All right.
you did not win it.
Individually,
You did not win it.
people in the chat say I won. I made that up. You're not looking at the
Okay.
chat. Okay. Um, my next question: Can New Mexico women can they get a runner in the top 10? Now, remember, no women's champ since the field went to 31 teams in 1999 has scored more than 10 points with their number one runner. It's never happened before. New Mexico has had three different number ones this year: Parsons, Mazzadowny, and Larkin. I think because they move in concert with one another and because they are so deep, I think it is as simple as if they can get somebody in that top 10 or scoring 10, they're going to win. But do you think it's more complicated than that?
Yeah, why don't we do this? Are they going to beat Mercy Chilangat?
No,
Yes or no?
no.
Okay. Are they going to beat Celia McCabe of West Virginia?
Oh, it's Kaylee McCabe, by the way. We got an email
Okay.
about
Oh,
that.
Kaylee McCabe.
Apologies. Hard C. No, I don't think so.
Okay. Are they going to beat Whitney Orton?
I don't think so.
Okay. Abby Nichols of Colorado. Colorado's number one runner. No. Are they going to beat Grace Forbes? I would say no of Rice. Taylor Rowe, top three last year, running well. No.
No.
Kelsey Camille of NC State. No. Taryn O'Neill of Northern Arizona. No. Amanda Vestry or Emily Covert. Amanda Vestry, senior from Syracuse, or Emily Covert, freshman from
Mhm.
Colorado. I don't think they'd be either of those. So it's hard to find a runner in the current top 10 that you would take out for a Mazzy Downey or a Grayson Larkin or an Emma Heckel. It's hard to find a spot.
It is. It is, but it wouldn't surprise me. Parsons ran really well this year, the transfer from Edinburgh, D2. I don't think she ran regionals either for them. They just have a lot of options. So it sounds like you're a no. So does that mean you don't think that they can win, or do you think they can make history and have their first score be like they could go 12, 17, 19, 21, 22 and win the meet?
Maybe, I mean, yeah.
There's no rule that says they can't do it. I'm just looking at the
Yeah, there's no
trend that
rule.
says it hasn't
Yeah.
been to. Yeah. Add up the scores and that's the result. I just you look at their team and it doesn't seem to break. There's no vulnerabilities in it. It's just can they get that first runner? Can they get the group high enough up there? And the fact that you've had three number ones, I think would give some people a pause. It's just like in football when you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks basically. If you have three number one runners, do you really have a number one runner, or do you have three number three runners that take turns being the number one runner? But it'll be fun. It'll be fun to figure it out and to see because their path to winning is just much different than the other teams.
Yeah, I like that phrase. Do they have three number one runners or three number three runners? I think they have three number three runners. No, I think they have three number two runners. Yeah, three number
Okay.
two runners. That's what they got.
And can you
Their number
win?
one runner was supposed to be Ava Cohen, but she's been like their number seven runner all year, which doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense.
No, and that's why
CP,
that's why it's confusing. You see someone like her, okay, she's going to be number one, and then you're like, all right, no, and then you look at, all right, they've had three different people in that top spot too, and then there's a possibility that two different people would be in there as well. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's gonna be tough. I'm not picking them to win. I'm obviously picking them to Podium, and I think that depth is going to just be it's going to be enough to get them in the top two. That's where I've landed on it.
See, the people in the chat are favoring you, Kevin, over me on these takes.
It's because
I
I
just,
play to the chat. It's because I just see what they're saying and I just parrot their arguments. JF says Parsons only got 12th at Nuttycombe. Yes, good point. Good point. Doesn't think that they can keep the pack together if the pace is fast. And I do think the pace is going to be fast. I do think that is going to be the case because of the nature of the course. All right. 2 questions down. 3 or more to go because you added more questions here in an attempt to throw me off my game, but I will not be deterred.
of course.
You talked about, let's stay with the women's race. You talked about what I would refer to as bellwether runners when you did your prognostications. Hey, if this person finishes All American, then that's going to be great for this team. And there's several people in this field that you highlighted as being particularly important. That's not to say the other people on the team do not factor in, but these runners, just based on how their seasons have played out or based on what they imply about the rest of the team, are particularly important. For the women you brought up too, and I want you just to expand on it a little bit here. Steelman for the favorites in NC State and Jamie Reed of Alabama. Explain why they are bellwether runners.
Yeah, I guess I'll start with Steelman. So Steelman, I have currently ranked 19th in the rankings, but that's purely off of name recognition and just like gotta you can't assume they're not going to do well. But she didn't run at Nuttycombe and she didn't run it at regionals. So clearly she's not 100%, or else she would have ran all the races. And so, despite being a top 5 finisher last year, she may not be that top 20 woman that we are expecting NC State to have
Mm-hmm.
in Hannah Steelman. So when we're ranking NC State, we're ranking assuming that Steelman is in there and assuming that she's running to at least a top 20 potential. But if all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden she isn't a top 20 potential, she becomes finishing in the 50s, that that lead that NC
Yeah.
State has over Colorado, New Mexico, and BYU pretty much evaporates, and now anyone can win it. So if NC State has a Steelman who's top 20, they're they're set.
Yeah.
But if they don't, they have a huge vulnerability, and a different team can kind of sneak in and win. So that's because
And
everything, like Camille, Tui. We know what they're going to do. We know what you know uh, Alex Hayes is going to do. We know what Samantha Bush is going to do. We know like the range they're going to be in. Steelman can go from we think you're 20th to all of a sudden you're coming in and finishing 40th or 50th, and now you're like, whoa, where you're not going to make up those points elsewhere. So
yeah, she's the bridge between Camille and Tui, and then the 4 and the 5, Hayes and
yeah,
Bush or whoever it ends up being. It is strange though, because going into the season, I would have said, hey, the one thing we can bank on is Steelman because she's a veteran and because she looks so good last year at nationals, and that's not the case based on what we've seen so far. But if you're looking at it from an NC State perspective, that's a decent spot to be in. Hey, our biggest question mark is multiple-time All-American senior leader. Okay, cool. I'll take that. That sounds good to me. That's the only question that we need to answer is Hannah Steelman going to be able to show up and get top 20? All right, she can run top 20. Um,
yeah,
okay, so and she hasn't been. It's more that she's been missing races because she was 4th at ACCs, 6th at Joe Piani, 5th at their home meet. She's been solid when she's been out there. And I mean, Piani 6th. Who was she behind? Piani, Chalangat, the Alabama duel, Asicole and Chalangat, Camille, Parsons, and then Prey. So she's about 10 seconds back of Camille. She stays there. I think they're good. I think they're gonna win. I think NC State's gonna win the whole thing. How about Jamie Reed, the person you highlighted for Alabama, which would be the ultimate stealth pick?
yeah. So she finished 242nd at the the 20 March cross country championships. I misspoke when I said what her 3K time was. I said she ran like a 907 or 909 in a 3K. Turns out she only ran a 919 in a 3K. So a bit off. But the 919 is still, sub 920 in a 3K, pretty good. She has, she's run 442 in the mile, 919 in a 3K. You look at what she's done. All right, so in cross last year, she was
Mhm.
sixth at the SEC champs. She won the Commodore Classic and she got second at the Florida State Invitational. So she was running like as one of the top runners for Alabama. Like she was in their top three, finishing sixth at conferences, and then 242nd at
Mhm.
nationals, and it's all she
Yep.
wrote. This year, she's run DNF at SEC, and she got 30th at the South Regional. So she has these hot and colds, right? She has her hots where she's finishing sixth at SECs, second at Florida State Invitational. Who does she beat at this Florida State Invitational? I'm going to look this up. Um, yeah, she beat Lauren White of. She was second to Mercy Chelangat, just finishing 5 seconds back of the eventual NCAA champion.
Mhm.
So she's had the ability to be one of the top runners that we would typically put in our top 20 or top 30. But lately, she's not running that well. And she's important because she's Alabama's fifth runner. Alabama is so good through four. They got four really strong runners. They can put obviously one in the top one. Their 2, 3, 4 can all finish on a good day top 20, on a bad day top 40. So it all comes down
Yeah.
to Jamie Reed, and if she's able to finish 40th, like I said in the podcast, their fifth runner will be 40th, and they're going to
Yeah.
win. I mean, NC State's fifth runner is not 40th. BYU's fifth runner is not 40th. New Mexico and Colorado's fifth runners aren't going to be 40th. But if for some reason she does it, Alabama to the moon.
I think you're putting a lot of pressure on her. I think that's a big ask to say to be All American. And I think couldn't they win if she got 60th, which would be a huge performance too? Because you'd need
Yeah,
Gatahi to run really well, and you'd need Asakol and Taisma to run well. I think we assume that Chilangat, even on a bad day, is going to be in the top 5 or 10. But yeah, that's asking a lot. That's asking a lot. It is again something to keep an eye on because it is one of those teams that have the four and then they have the cliff. And if she can jump up and finish even top 100, we get you in the podium, right?
yeah. I'm looking more at her results. Her first cross country race last year, she beat Mercy Chilangat by she won the race. She beat Chilangat by like 15 seconds. She beat Sarah Chapman, who got second in the race, by like 10 seconds, and that Sarah Chapman turned out to get 47th. So she has run with women who are, like I said, the top caliber, but
Mhm.
just not of late. So we'll see.
Someone in the chat says I'll give you $1,000 if Reed finishes 40th. So there you go. There's the
Yeah,
bet.
well, that'll be great. I will not give you a
There's the bet.
thousand dollars if she doesn't, though, because she probably won't. So feel free
Yeah.
to
It
Venmo me a
it,
thousand
it
dollars.
was interesting that it was interesting. You focus on this one person. It's like if they can just get All American, and then I was like, is there any indication that she can get All American? I don't. I mean, the fact that she was doing well relative to Chilangat is a good sign. But again, that was was that before you anointed Chilangat as the next best thing, and then her career took off because that was really a dividing line for her.
No, I mean it was after I anointed her. It was preseason.
Okay.
I was like, yeah, you're
All
good.
right.
I think Shalinga was probably toying with the field. I mean, she's like, I don't need to win the Commodore invite during the pandemic. It's gonna be okay. You know,
It's gonna
that's
be
probably
all
what
right.
she was thinking. It's gonna be all right.
Okay, now let's switch to the men, the bellwethers. We already talked about Kusha in specific and torturous detail. We don't need to go back for him. But you brought up Garnica. You want to talk about the BYU men and the role that Garnica you think will play?
Yeah, I mean BYU, they're in the mix. They're not in the favorite mix because they don't have as much depth. We know what they have in the top two, and Mance and Klinger. They'll probably both be top 10, if not top 15. With Klinger being the guy changing. I mean, Mance is going to be top two, right? So um, the key thing is though, if Garnica runs extremely well and all of a sudden is running top 25, they're going to cancel
Yep.
out NAU's top three. And then it's just going
Mhm.
to be a dual meet between the 4 and 5 runners. And
Mm.
Aiden Troutner and Lucas Bonds, I don't see any reason why they're not able to beat a George Koosh and a Theo Quacks. I mean, Bonds is a miler, Koosh is a miler, so they're kind of equal there. Troutner, he's an unproven but a good cross country runner. Same thing with Brody Hasties and Theo Quack. So I don't know. I think that if Garnica finds a way to cancel out NAU's top three, then they're now in the category, right? I mean, NAU basically starts the starts the conversation with their top three score, right? Notre
Mhm.
Dame, Notre Dame and Oklahoma State don't need to match it because they have better 4-5 runners. So they're able to pass them in their 4-5. BYU can't really match it unless they match them at the top three level, which is why they need the Garnica. So basically, in order for BYU to be in the conversation, they need to match NAU's top three, whereas Notre Dame and Oklahoma State, they can make it up in their four runner and their 5 runner because Oklahoma State and Notre Dame, their 4 runners are better. I mean, I know you think George Kush is, but like George Kush is not as proven as
Just
their number 4
leave the
runners.
man alone. Leave him alone.
Literally less than a year ago were finishing like 30th at nationals. So you have to give them the benefit of the doubt. All right. Again,
What did he do to
this may
you?
come off as an NAU bashing system, but at the end of the podcast, if you actually watch the whole
You're
thing,
bashing
I picked
bashing
I picked them to
Kusha.
win. I picked them to win. I do. For the record, I pick NAU to win because I do think George is going to run well. I'm just saying I and I think maybe one of Oklahoma State's guys doesn't run well. I'm just trying to tell you what needs to happen
Hmm.
for these teams to win. I'm not predicting what's going to happen. I'm just saying what I think. And
I
I'll
feel like
tell
you're
you right
going
now,
overboard on the Kusha bashing.
If Oklahoma State does what they're supposed to do, they're going to win. I don't care if George Kush finishes 39th. They're going to win. The odds of it happening, I don't know. You know what I mean? People have bad races, so we'll see.
Bonds finished behind Quacks at pre-nats.
Yeah, I know. But like,
Cross country is
okay.
fun because you talk about the fifth best person sometimes more than you talk about the first because you just assume Mance will be fine. All right, now let's talk about this guy who no one's talked about for 4 years, who's mid pack on the track. It all comes down to him.
It does.
Yeah.
It actually it all comes down to the number 4 runner. So that's a big reason why I'm focusing a lot on the
Well, I
the
think it's
defending
just
champions
interesting.
number 4 runner. So
You compare it to other sports. It's never. It's not. There's 5 guys on the court, 5 women on the court in a basketball game, but you're never like, I wonder how their fourth and fifth are key. If they can just
yeah.
get they can just get Danny Green to hit some threes, they'll be all right.
It'd be
Actually,
it would be
as a Spurs
like
fan, I did rely on Danny Green to hit some threes. Now that I think about it, maybe it's not that different.
ESPN first take previewing the Super Bowl and like the graphic is just like the right tackle and the other team's left
Yeah,
tackle.
exactly.
Like who has the
Yes,
better?
yeah, no, exactly. We're not talking about quarterbacks here. We're talking about tackles and safeties and kickers. That's what this is about. Okay, how many people can win the men's race individually, Gordon? And then we'll do the same thing for the women. I know we talked about your odds last time, but what does your gut tell you? The always accurate Gordon Mack gut. What does it tell you
How many people can win on a gut? 6.
for the men?
Yeah. With 2
I think
likely,
7. I
4.
think I think 7. But go ahead.
You have 7. I have 6. Who are your 7? I'll go first.
Mance. Okay,
I
go ahead.
agree. Mance,
Go
you
ahead.
have a Mance. Who else you have?
Wildershut,
I have him.
Kip 2, of course.
Yep.
Tier,
Yep.
Nico Young,
Yep.
Rodriguez,
I don't have him.
because you don't believe enough in Oklahoma State. And the man himself, the wild card from Campbell, Athanas
Yeah,
Kyoko.
I have him as well. Yeah. So the only difference is I don't think Isai's going to win.
I didn't say he's going to win. I said he can win.
Yeah.
I think he win. I guess it's tough because he's raced Kip 2 so many times, and Kip 2 just blocks him every time.
Yeah.
But there is a chance that Kip 2 has a bad race. Something goes wrong, and we've seen it with favorites in NCAA cross before. Okay, how about the women? How many women can win?
I want to say like 4 or 5, but I think I'm only going to say 3. And my 3 being
And they are?
Chalanga, McCabe, and Orton. And then if I were to go to 4 and 5, I would do like a Taryn O'Neill and
Mm.
like maybe like Grace Forbes or something. But I don't know. I think it's 3: Chalanga, McCabe, or Orton.
Yeah, you could throw Rowe in there maybe, but I agree with you. I think it's those 3. Orton is such a mystery because she either is in way better shape than you thought she was in because they were being coy, or you find out after the fact, like last year, oh, she did like 2 workouts all year and all season, and then came to NCAAs and was leading through 5K, and then final hill caught up to her and she fell back. You don't know. I think Chalangat is clearly the safest bet of anybody here because
Yeah.
she's the defending on the women's side because she's the defending champion and she doesn't really seem to have bad races and she's undefeated. Track was pretty good for her. Solid performer. You added a couple more questions here.
Of
Let me
course.
look at them. Who will be the top freshman? Well, Gordon, according to your rankings, the top freshman for the women is Emily Covert and Caitlin Toohey. So we're counting the COVID year freshman here, I think. And
Yeah, but we
then
can't. We have
for
to find out who the top true freshman is.
okay, because then in the men you have a guy by the name of Nico Young as the top freshman.
Yeah. So
True
on the
freshman.
women's side, I have to double check people who actually not her. I'm going farther down. Is Bethany Graham a true freshman? I need. I should have done more preparation. Nope, she's not true freshman. Mazzy Downey's
Is
not.
anybody a true
Tori
freshman
Herman.
anymore?
Is Tori Herman a true freshman? Nope, not a true freshman. Damn, where is the first true freshman? Someone in the chat can
Interesting.
find who's the first true freshman. Emma Heckel, she's not, right? But she might be actually. But she's international. Does that count?
Yes, that
Are
counts. You're
international
just talking
people
about
allowed to
true
be true
freshmen.
freshmen?
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
you're looking for the women.
Emma Heckel of New Mexico. It's my top true freshman. She's from Germany. Oh nope, she ran at Rice. I take that back. She is not a true freshman.
Nobody's a true
Keep
freshman. Let's
going.
just give
Oh,
up. It's Nico
is
Young.
Tierney Wolfgram? Is she a true freshman?
No, she ran last year. I remember
But
that.
she's not. She did. Yeah, she was going to be it. Dang. All right. Top true
Uh,
freshman
Bryn
is
Brown. I'm looking at the chat. Bryn Brown, Parker Valby.
Parker
There
Valby's
you
not
go.
true freshman. She ran in
Okay.
2020.
Bryn Brown, though, right?
Bryn Brown is a true freshman.
There you go.
What about?
Are we settling on that?
But I don't have her ranked that high. What about Sydney Sigstead? This is
This is
a
just a great
bit
segment. I'm
from
glad we were really
Villanova.
prepared for this
Here,
one.
oh
This is
her,
good.
Sydney Villanova. This is my pick. Let me double check. Hold on. Be a true freshman. She's from Canada. Yeah,
Yeah.
there we go.
All
Years of
right. Do we want
eligibility,
to do this?
freshman.
Do we want to do the same thing with the men, or is this going to be painful?
Well, no, it won't be as painful. I could probably eyeball it better with the men, to be honest. Um,
Really? Because
the
I'm
top.
scrolling a lot in the men, and I'm not finding many.
Well, I guess you could technically say Victor Kipop's a true freshman, but we're not going to count that. Um, Graham Blanks. No, he's not
Didn't he
because
run
he ran.
track? Didn't Victor Kiprop run
Yeah, well,
track?
he ran. Yeah, he ran like that unattached 5K.
Okay.
Parker Wolf. He's a true freshman, right? North
I
Carolina.
mean, my inclination is to always say no. Parker Wolf, come on down. What do you got?
I think it's Parker
It's just
Wolf.
most. It's mostly just North Carolina people. If you run for North Carolina, you're
Yeah.
probably a freshman. That's how it works.
Yeah, Parker Wolf. He's the true freshman. I have him getting 60th. So yeah, so Parker Wolf from North Carolina and the Villanova athlete. There's not a lot of true freshmen. It kind of sucks, right? Because
It's just
there's
confusing.
three levels
Next
of
year will be.
freshmen. There's
Yeah.
true freshman, redshirt freshman, and COVID redshirt freshman. So,
Next year will be better. Be clearer next year. All right. Your other question, your last question on here. Who could podium that is currently ranked outside the top 10 in the team race?
okay, on the men's side, you're dealing with a Princeton, Texas, Air Force, Georgetown, Ole Miss, Furman, Washington, Harvard, Alabama, Syracuse, Oregon, Butler, Gonzaga, Michigan, Wake Forest, and then a few others. Who could podium
I mean, I
that
would
is
say.
not in the top?
I mean, Oregon was missing a guy, right? At regionals in their top 5.
Mm,
So
uh,
I think
yeah, but
if they
they're
go back to full strength, get a big race out of Cooper Tier, some
yeah. I
potential
mean, I have
there.
them ranked 21st with big races out of Tier and big race out of Benfield. They just have no good 3, 4, 5. I think I'll go Washington. Why not? I'll go Washington as the
What about the
wild
women?
card to podium. On the women's side, um, outside top 10, ooh, Utah's there, Iowa State, Wisconsin, Stanford. Yeah, I'll go with Stanford. Why not? They find the magic. Yeah, Stanford would be
Notre
my
Dame ran really
wild
well at
card team.
regionals. Yeah.
They
Notre Dame
did.
went from
I'm ranked
unranked
15th.
to
I mean, we had
1-5.
a
That's
what? Michigan State. Michigan State finished podium
yep.
last year, so things happen.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's always a safe bet to go with like the team that was ranked high in the preseason and then dropped out to be like, all right, we were right all along. They just didn't waited till the last meet to do it. So I'll go with the Stanford women.
Yeah. We got a few minutes left. If you got questions, put them in the chat. I'm gonna read the emails real quick. Justin says, "Don't forget to give a shout out to the Canadians. 4 of the 18 winners at NCAA regionals were from Canada. Boom. Consider it shouted out. Um, thanks to Bob for the correction
22%.
on Kaylee McCabe. Exactly, Kaylee McCabe's name. Dave writes in about the weather. He said, just remember that the Panhandle is different than South Florida. He said temps will not be hot. Temperature on Saturday morning at race time will probably around 50 to 55 degrees, which is pretty ideal. You did some weather reporting for the show. Is that what you found? I know you were diving into the UV index too.
Yeah. The weather's going to be good, right? It's going to be perfect weather. There's going to be no weather dynamic excuses, whether hot, cold, windy.
Yeah.
There's going to be no elements being like, "Ooh, the elements changed the game." It's just going to be
Well, people will
ability that
say it
changes
should
the
have
game.
been snowy and this isn't real cross country. That's what they'll say. If it's 55 with
Okay,
the course being flat, you'll get people complaining the other direction. Not that you need to justify
true.
them with a response, but there are always going to be complaints. Bill wrote in, he asked about Marley Starlipper. His any chance NC State's been saving her all season just for nationals? Is she healthy? Is she injured? Do you know anything about Starlipper, Gordon?
I wouldn't expect anything from her. I think NC State kind of knows what they are. I don't think they're going to throw in a wild card freshman like Starlipper in there. I think
Mm-hmm.
the only person they're really thrown in is Steelman. They
Mhm.
have so much depth. It's not they you know they have a lot of people who are sophomores and juniors that are going to fill up the 4, 5, 6, 7 slot. That Starlipper really isn't going to be one of them. So I would think you'd have to wait another year before we get the Starlipper till we
Mhm.
do well on the cross country course.
We got an email from Misha who wants us to join his team, put together a cross country pool, and he wants us to add our predictions on here. And at first I thought, hey, is there some sort of virus attached? If I open up this doc, am I going to lose all my data? But I saw his name. I did some research on him, so I know about him. He's legit. So I think I'm going to put mine in there, Gordon. I think you should do it too, because he's trying to get his whole
Okay,
team to
so
do
what do we
it.
have to do?
It's in the email. You click on the link and you fill in your top 25, basically.
Oh, it's
So
filling top 25.
you're not doing anything else, dude. Just copy and paste your top 25 and put it in there. He invited us. You're like the celebrity picker. He didn't really want me there. He wants you there, but he
Wait,
had to ask for both because it would have been weird. If he's like, hey, I just want Gordon's picks.
but
Just
like
fill it
top
in.
25 individuals or teams? Like we said individuals?
Listen,
How you
there's
how's
the
the
email
scoring
is,
work? So
you can read. You
what
don't
if
have
I
to pay any money. You can look at it. He explains it. He's like a future you. He's got like color coded spreadsheets and stuff. You should appreciate that someone is going through this much trouble. So there's a tab at the bottom. It says Gordon Max predictions at the bottom. There it is. And they got a hot take section here. You don't need to fill in that, but they got space for your predictions and my predictions. You'll you'll figure it out. You should do it.
I'll figure it out.
I'm
I haven't
I'm
opened up.
I'm I'm suggesting that you do it. And if something goes wrong
I
with
need
your
to add in
computer,
the.
I know his name. So
I haven't opened up the FloTrack podcast email in a while because I changed
okay,
computers and I forgot the passcode.
I'm in charge of it. Okay, we got a question in the chat from Say My Way. What are your winning score predictions? Numbers.
Ooh,
What's the number?
I'm gonna go with. That's a good question. What do I have for the men? I would say the winning score is going to probably be 125.
125,
So
huh?
yeah, I think it's going to be pretty high.
That's
And
pretty
then for the
high.
women, I think it's going to be like 90.
Wow, so you have the women lower than the men.
Yeah,
Interesting.
because there are more contenders on the men's side, so it's a higher score. There's less contenders, it'd be a lower score.
I
That's the
understand that.
thing. When people be like, such a dominating victory, in a way, the lower the score is, the actual less impressive in a way, in a mind-boggling way, because that means there just wasn't as much competition because you're able to kind of score lower. You know,
Hmm.
so in any
Well, we compare.
winning a high scoring race is actually, in a weird way, more impressive.
Well, you're compared relative to your competition, though, so it just depends on the year.
Sure.
So I had all the data through from 1998 to 2018. The average men's winning score was 83, and the average women's winning score was 106. So there's about a 23-point difference. I don't have the 2019 and 2020 data in there yet, but
That
gives you an idea.
that makes sense. Wait, no, that doesn't make sense actually. But okay.
What
Yeah,
do you
I'm
mean?
going with 125 and 90. Those are my two scores.
Yeah, I just think there's been more clustering on the men's side of things, or the distance because it's 6K. There's more parity
Yeah.
as well too. Um, but as I mentioned in this article, just because the score has been lower doesn't mean the race has been less competitive. The average men's margin of victory is 45 points, while women were 41 points. So pretty much the same. So the scores are higher, but the difference between 1 and 2 is pretty close. Who will have the best pack time of the top three men's teams? Laura wants to know. That's a good question. And
Best
then Evan,
pack
best pack time. So like 1 through 5 spread, basically for the men.
among the
I
top
mean,
three teams?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if it goes well for Notre Dame, you'd expect them to have the best 1 through
Yeah,
5.
basically you have to pick who has the weakest number one because your pack time will be better because you're comparing to a lesser
Yeah,
like BYU is not going to have a good pack time because Mance is going to be
yeah,
so far ahead. Same with Iowa State.
yeah.
So I'll probably Notre Dame because while Dylan Jacobs is good, he's not going to be beating the he's not going to be 20 seconds ahead of the fifth place finisher the way Mance and Kiptu and maybe even Young would be. So he'd probably be more like finishing seventh, therefore 2, 3, 4, 5 are closer to him. So I'll go with Notre Dame. They'll have the best pack.
Mhm.
Or Colorado. Colorado too.
Someone wants to know, does an American win either race? They can.
I hate that.
There's no rule that says they can't.
There's,
This
there's
is
no
this is
rule.
Gordon's favorite topic. This is Gordon's favorite topic. Every
This is
year.
literally the only sport. No one cares the nationality
Can an
of the
American win the
quarterback
Heisman
when we're
Trophy?
watching college football. No one cares the nationality of the star pitcher of a baseball team
They don't
in
even care in
college
track.
World
Do they even
Series.
care in track? No one cares in
They don't even
track
care. Yeah, they don't
even.
even care in track. Yeah,
It's like, can an
they're like,
American win the 100? No.
can a Nigerian upset the triple jump? No one
Yeah.
cares. No, when they announced the javelin throw winner, it's like this is now 3 straight wins for a German athlete in the NCAA. No one cares. There are
Mhm.
certain people in sports media who care. I don't know why, but whatever. Um, but yeah, an American definitely can win. Connor Mance is an American; he can win. Also, a non-American can win because they're good at running too. But yeah, I don't think it's a. I don't. We're not. People aren't wearing USA and Kenya jerseys. They're wearing BYU and Iowa State jerseys and
Yeah.
Northern Arizona jerseys. I think,
Yeah.
if anything, we should. Yeah, the nationality that we should be talking about is the nationality of the school. So it's Utah versus Florida versus Iowa versus Arizona versus
Yeah.
Oklahoma versus North Carolina versus California.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't need another distinction there. Yeah, on the women's side of the top 3, McCabe is Canadian. Uh, and then on the men's side, what you got? Mance, who
World Shut
else?
is South African.
South African, Kiptu, Tier, Young, Rodriguez. I mean, there's a lot of Americans
Hicks is
up
British,
there.
as I learned a year ago.
Is but went to school in the United States. There you go. Ultimate plot twist. Speaking of Hicks, Bill asked, "Does Hicks have a chance to win the men's race?" I didn't put him in
No.
my group, but there's if you pick the field, if you had odds for the 6 and then you picked the field, I think he could be one of the people who would win it from the field. But long
Yes.
shot,
Sure.
long shot.
That's the thing. I
And if
mean,
you,
like, only one person gets to win. So
it's true.
saying that you can't win, the guy can also finish second. That's also not winning, but that's also amazing. So
Yes.
uh, I think Hicks is going to finish top 10. I don't. Here's a question: will Hicks beat Tier? So Charles Hicks beat Cooper Tier at Pac-12s. He beat Cooper Tier. I believe. Did he beat him at West Regional? He might have. Yes, he did. He beat him at the
The
West Regional
regionals
by
count.
one. No,
Regionals
but
count.
it's a win.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
like this Pac-12ness, like Cooper Tier is like not the breadwinner, but like the best runner in Pac-12, arguably, right? I don't think anyone will debate.
Is
He's the
it or is
best
it
distance
Charles
runner in
Hicks now?
Pac-12.
Is it
But if
Hicks?
Charles Hicks is winning now back-to-back wins, does Cooper Tier get the last say, or does Charles Hicks? If Charles Hicks were to beat Tier here, do we go into like indoor and outdoor and being like, ooh, maybe Hicks is the guy in the Pac-12 and not Cooper Tier because he actually beat
Yeah.
him the one that actually mattered.
Yeah. I really the amount you care about the regular season decreases as you get better, I would say.
Yeah,
And Tier almost making the Olympic team and having a long track season gave him even more reason to chill.
yeah,
However, 10K is stretching the range for Cooper Tier. What's his best cross finish?
true.
Um,
I think he had like a
is it
top 10.
Was he? I mean, if you're that fast, you can't help but be good at the longer distances. That's not true. Some people are not still good at it, but yeah, remember they didn't do it last year, and then 2019 he was 6th. Yeah, or maybe Hicks is just a cross country guy.
Maybe he's just a cross country guy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just guys
I
being cross country.
I just think you pick Tier because Tier's ceiling is
So much higher.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, higher, not huge. I guess you could have a huge ceiling. You don't want a huge
I
ceiling
mean,
because there's more things keeping you down. You want a high ceiling, which is what Cooper Tier has. Nailed it.
yeah. Every time Tier loses, I still refuse to like drop him in the rankings because I'm like, Tier is
Well,
busy thinking about making the world team in 2022. He'll
yeah,
show up at nationals.
that's the residual Lincoln effect, who believed in Cooper Tier passionately and strongly for a very long time, and it paid off. Problem was, by the time it paid off, Lincoln wasn't here anymore, and he couldn't talk about track for a living, so he didn't have an opportunity to spike the football. But for years there, he was same thing with Fisher. He was big Fisher guy, and then he leaves, and he can't take his victory lap.
Unfortunate.
Anthony says, when does track season begin again? Great question. Some might say not
Track
soon
season.
enough. There's an indoor,
December
yeah, there's
December
an indoor meet.
4th.
Yeah, in 2 weeks there's an indoor meet. Also, we have crazy levels of track content planned for 2022. It's going to be great. Does it include Belgrade and Spokane? No, it doesn't. But it includes Gordon and I talking into our webcams using our microphones.
Well, I mean, track season though on floats can be good. We have all the BU meets are back. Remember, they didn't
Mhm.
have those last year, so BU track is back. So we have some fast
Yeah,
times there. The the indoor tour is live on Flow, so all those big
yep.
like European indoor meets. So we should have some fast times, some Jacob Ingebrigtsen action probably.
Yeah, we got
Jakob
him
Ingebrigtsen,
last
sorry.
year. We got
Yeah,
Marcel Jacobs at one of those meets last year, who went on to win the gold medal. You had Grant Holloway breaking the world record at that meet. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be.
it's gonna be
It's
really
gonna
good.
start soon enough. Just if you're a sprint person and you're still listening, congrats. Gordon should pay you. But also, just around the corner is track, and we'll go hard into track,
Do you think there's
of course.
someone from like the Bahamas or Jamaica who started listening to this podcast when we were doing all
Doing
the
like Elaine Thompson
Richardson
stuff.
and Elaine Thompson stuff during build up
Yeah,
to the Olympics and during the Olympics? And they log in every day hoping is this the time that
yeah.
they're waiting for cross country to be over. They're like,
Well, they tune
okay,
in. They tune in, and they're like, "Hey, this George Kusha guy must be the best distance runner in the NCAA because the amount that these guys talk about."
true.
Little do they know, we're spending time talking about the mid pack of the NCAA, which is where we're at. All right, we'll leave it there. Friday, we'll have our fantasy cross country draft. That'll be really exciting. So tune in. You can help us make our picks, tell us where we're wrong. And then Saturday, 9 a.m. Central, NCAA Cross Country Championship watch party featuring the greats Justin Knight, Courtney Frericks, and Gordon Mack. The big three of NCAA cross country over the last 10 years. It's going to be epic. Make sure you tune in. Thank you to Travis and Ilan for producing. Special shout out to Ilan, going on to do big things out there in Los Angeles. We'll talk to you guys next time. FloTrack Podcast at gmail.com.